podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan and my guest in this episode is Josh Auty. Now, despite only being 31, he seems like he's been around forever in British Speedway and has raced for the Redcar Bears, the Sheffield Tigers, the Coventry Bees, the Birmingham Brummies, the Leicester Lions, the Queensland Stars and, most notably, the Scunthorpe Scorpions, which is where he's going to be having his testimonial meeting, which is the curtain raiser for British Speedway's season in 2022, the very first fixture. He's also had some success internationally, where he was the winner of the Queensland State Championship in 2010, and he did that beating Darcy Ward despite having an eye infection.
The big one were winning the Queensland title, just phenomenal times and memories that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life.
We'll find out more about that. Plus, he's one of the lucky riders to, at one point, have appeared in the Speedway Grand Prix in Cardiff. He got a ride out as a track reserve. We'll talk all about that and look at how his own dream meeting may look as well before the end here on Humans of Speedway. But right now, let's welcome Josh and start with that testimonial because it's been delayed, what with everything in the world. And finally it's happening as the curtain raiser. You must be pleased that it's finally here.
Yeah, no, I'm obviously really, really looking forward to it. It's been a long time coming, my testimonial. It's, as I said, the first staging of it, the pandemic hit, and obviously the whole of 2020 season were not run. And then 2021, I personally chose not to run or stage my meeting in that season. And here we are in 2022 and I'm looking forward to it.
With a clean slate as well, and obviously you've got a new team, we'll talk about that in a sec, but when you line up at the tapes for the first time at your testimonial, that's going to be the first time you've competed since, June last year or something like that? So it's been a long time since you've lined up against other riders in a competitive heat of Speedway, so you must be just like itching to get back out there on the bike and to the tapes again.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to just getting back on a bike and enjoying my racing again, to be honest. 2021 were really rough for me personally, in every department really, so I just want to, start afresh. Looking forward to riding for Birmingham. I loved it there in 2012 and 2013. Came really close to winning some silverware with them, so it'd be nice to, have a good year personally.
I think many fans, not just of Scunthorpe, but probably across the whole of British Speedway, were surprised to see that you were replaced, having been at Scunthorpe for so long. 9 years is a long time, but clearly a change was required at some level in that team, and you were the one to make way. And that just really goes to show that Speedway is quite brutal at times, isn't it?
Sport can be quite brutal, really. You can be top goal scorer in football one season, and if you're not banging the goals in the next season, you're dropped. It's as simple as that. To me, it opens your eyes up a little bit regarding things like that. Business is business. That's the way you've got to look at it. It's as ruthless as that. And
has it fired you up a bit more for this year? Because whilst it's your testimonial, you're only 31 and your prime of your career, really, in many ways, you have to say.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need a kick up the backside, and I think 2021 as a year for me, that was a big kick up backside, as if to say, you've got to do better. I wasn't performing at the time. Everybody knows now the issues that I had that I were going through. So it wasn't as black and white as you just weren't performing. Obviously, if the mental aspect to racing is just as critical as the physical aspect, the whole package surrounding the rider has to be bang on if you want to be competitive. And obviously 2021 wasn't a great year for me. I felt that I was trying to kind of work in a warehouse alongside my racing, and it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to hold a full-time job as well as race competitively, because ultimately, if you want to be at the top of your game, every focus has to be on winning speedway races, because that's your livelihood at the end of the day. If you're not performing, you're not getting the substantial income you need to be able to live. So, yeah, as I said, it's a completely fresh start mentally, physically for me as well. So, as I said, I really can't wait to get back on a bike. I mean, I would like to have been back on a bike the previous 2 weekends, but the weather's not been really kind to us. Obviously, the weather's been dreadful, so nobody's really been able to get back on a speedway track.
Your bikes are ready, and you're looking forward to the new season. And of course, it kicks off, as mentioned, with your testimonial, the 19th of March, 5:00. It's Scunthorpe, of course, and you got a cracking lineup. I think obviously riders are ready, raring to go, and you've assembled a great field, and your lineup's complete as well now. So we can talk about all the riders.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously over the moon to get me lineup complete. That was sort of paramount for me before you can really do much promoting, to be fair. So it was good to get 16 riders in my lineup, 2 reserves, and as I said, it'd be difficult to pick a winner from the field that I've assembled. I think your standouts is obviously Danny King, Bomber Harris, Charles Wright. You got 3 British champions. They know how to win, and they, I think, can deal with the pressures of being a champion and a winner.
And a couple of league champions as well from the Premiership, with Jordan Palin, who of course doubles up with Scunthorpe, but Ulrich Ostergaard also going to be on show. And you mentioned some of the other names too. A few British champions joining the lineup in Danny King, Chris Harris and Charles Wright. It must be good for the riders as well at this stage of the season. You officially open the season, and for the riders to put general practice behind them and start pitting their wits against fellow professionals.
Absolutely. It's the first, as you've mentioned, it's the first competitive meeting of the season. I'm really proud to be able to say that. I'm opening the British domestic calendar, which is... I feel that I deserved it for the service over quite a long period of time, especially for Scunthorpe. I think I did 9 consecutive years there, 11 in total, including my Conference League days. So, as I said, I'm just buzzing to get going. I'm looking forward to getting back on my bike and hopefully winning some races.
And what's the format of the event going to be? Are you having like a 4-team tournament idea, or is it going to be pairs, or is it going to be a straight individual? How's it all going to run?
It's basically exactly like a Grand Prix. So there's 20 races, there's 2 semi-finals and a final, which I wanted to go down that route to give the supporters good value for money in terms of 23 races for £16. I didn't think that, I thought that were good value for money. The British youth are obviously doing the pre-meeting entertainment. I felt strongly about giving youth some track time as well, because we've all been there. We've all been a youngster wanting to get out on track and ride different circuits to gain experience to help us throughout his career. So I felt that particularly the youth riders, I did want to, kick-start my event.
And Scunthorpe is one of those tracks that really dedicates lots of time to the youth as well. And many riders have started their careers there, not least Ty Woofenden, to name one. Jordan Palin, of course, another one. Jordan Jenkins, who we also spoke to recently, another who spent a lot of time around the Scunthorpe training track. So it is a great facility for the youth. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Scunthorpe is very similar to sort of the Leicester setup, where they can run practice and amateur events throughout the winter months. So it has been Scunthorpe in general has been a sort of a breeding ground for young riders. I think both your Worrells came through starting there, as you've mentioned, Palin, Ty Woofenden, myself. There's been many lads that have probably taken the first laps at Scunthorpe, so it's definitely Scunthorpe as a club has made its mark within British Speedway.
And a couple of those youth riders, your track reserves as well, the McGurk brothers, who have attracted a lot of attention. I think obviously will continue to do so over the years as they make their way through the sport. But again, exciting for them to be lining up potentially against some of these well-known names.
Absolutely, they only live down the road from me. I live in Dewsbury, and they're from Brighouse, and I just felt that let's give some local lads just the opportunity to be part of the event. So yeah, I think they'll both be chomping at the bit. Hopefully, they'll be hoping that somebody goes through the tape so they get an opportunity to get out on track with some class riders, as I mentioned before. Bomber Danny and Charles Wright, British champions. That's that's who they could potentially line up against. Which I think at that age. I remember being that age, and at the time, riders coming through would obviously have been like your Ricardsons and stuff like that. I would have loved to have lined up against them guys, or a British champion at the time I think it would have been Mark Laram, somebody like that, to be able to come up against. I mean, Mark Laram personally was probably one of my favourite riders, I think, in terms of his. He's my kind of rider, I would describe him as. In terms of but Bomber's very similar to sort of Mark, I would say, in terms of absolutely gives everything within the moment of a race and never gives in.
Yeah, exciting to watch, as well, and entertainer for the crowds. And obviously, I think riders clearly appreciate the style as well, don't they? And fantastic lineup, and of course, you're part of the lineup. You're getting to line up against these as well, which of course is probably nothing new for you. But for you, we're talking about your pre-season preparations, and you as important for you as the rest of the riders to test yourself in a meaningful match.
Absolutely, as you mentioned before, it's competitive racing. I'll still be lining up as I always do, wanting to win. As all the other guys will want to win. It's first meeting of season. You want to get your calendar up and running, and it's the perfect way is to win. It's as simple as that, to gain and build confidence throughout the season. So yeah, I just can't wait to compete again. I thrive off the challenge, and as I said, I'm just looking forward to getting back on my bike and enjoying it.
A different part of Speedway for you as well that you've experienced, that of being a promoter. Anybody you want to give a shout out to that's helped you put this together? Because a couple of episodes ago we spoke to Lewis Kerr, who has his testimonial the night after yours, that same weekend, and he was saying, I never want to be a promoter. How's it all gone for you, and who's helped you put this event together?
There's a lot of people that need mention. For first and foremost, the riders for committing to my event. The supporters, hopefully, that are going to come out and experience it. The sponsors, Auty Insurance, who obviously sponsor Scunthorpe, they're the meeting sponsor. Hurst Electrical have sponsored all 8 British youth riders, which is phenomenal. I think I've got 15 out of the 16 riders currently sponsored. I mean, I could go on all day individually mentioning everybody, but I'll just have to say all the sponsors involved, they've been phenomenal. Because I think, when the first staging of it were cancelled, obviously I had to contact everybody and say, look, do you want your money returning, or do you want to can it just sit in the testimonial account? And everybody said just keep hold of it, which is, phenomenal, really. They've all been incredibly understanding. So, yeah, as I said, the sponsors, all the volunteers that'll help at the track as well, they've all said, yeah, we're good for that date, which is brilliant. I think my family for putting up with me, because it's been as you've mentioned with Lewis, it is super stressful. And anybody that I haven't mentioned, everybody knows who's been involved with it. Julie Redding, another person that's taken on a lot regarding it. She's done many testimonials over the years for many riders. Rob for allowing me to host the event there. Rob and Gail Godfrey. the list honestly just goes on and on and on. If I've forgotten anybody, I hold my hands up and say, sorry that I forgot to mention them. But it's not as easy as slinging 16 riders together and that's it. There's so much more goes on behind the scenes. Referees, the insurance of the events. It's most definitely opened my eyes regarding the organisation to a speedway meeting.
I'll just run through the full lineup then, as it is, so that people know who's going to be there. So the confirmed lineup then is Danny King, Chris Harris, Ben Barker, Charles Wright, Jake Allen, Simon Lambert, Richard Lawson, Ryan Douglas, Jordan Palin, Kyle Howarth, yourself, Josh Auty, Paul Stark, Ulrich Ostergaard, Zane Kennedy, Tero Arnio and Kyle Newman, and the track reserves, Harry and Sam McGurk, which, that's a strong lineup. You've got to say, you've got to be happy with that, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah, really, I'm happy with it. It's when you read the list out like that, it's difficult to pick a winner, but I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Bomber, because he's my sort of rider, as I said before, he's my sort of rider. If I've rode with him and against him, particularly my Coventry days, I would say that's when I got a really good friendship with him, to be quite honest. And it's just when you're in a team with Bomber, it's like if you're going to war, he would be that guy that I go, you're coming to war with me. Is that he gives everything. He's an absolute warrior. I mean the year that Coventry won the league title, where I think Lewis Bridger runs over him, and he gets up, wins the rerun. I think in that moment, in that meeting, if Bomber doesn't come out in that rerun, Coventry don't win that league title. It's as simple as that. Within that moment, gets up, dusts himself down, wins the rerun, and it's just I was part of the squad at the time, but I wasn't at that meeting. But I can imagine that an event like that gives everybody a collective lift in the team. When something like that happens, and I think that almost like swung the tie in Coventry's favour at the time. So massive moment. And as I said, if you're going to war, you're taking Chris Harris with you. Simple as that.
Yeah, that was an incredible moment. And we talk about Speedway riders being made of different stuff, but, as far as that goes, Bomber's the top, isn't he? He just keeps coming back. Nothing's going to stop him.
He's a warrior.
And the Scunthorpe track, some good racing, and look forward to seeing some of those classic moves from Bomber as well. See if he can do his last to first move.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Put Bomber anywhere and his box office, isn't he? So, yeah, it'll be, as I said, I'm quite honoured that he's given up his time to compete in my event, and I really, really appreciate that all the lads have given the time up to race the Josh Auty testimonial.
So the Josh Auty testimonial then, Saturday 19th of March. It starts at 5 o'clock at Scunthorpe's Eddie Wright Raceway, and a great lineup. If you're in the area and you can make it, then certainly you'll be in for a great evening. And I know there's some people that are planning on making a weekend of the various meetings that are happening that weekend. So there's yours on the Saturday, there's Lewis Kerr on the Sunday, and then you've got the Peter Craven meeting on the Monday. So you can actually make a full 3-day trip of it if you've got the time and the energy.
It's a great weekend, really, when you put it in that respect. The meetings that are on show and the riders that are going to be on show as well. It's a great weekend.
And the meeting that begins it all in British Speedway is Saturday 19th of March, Josh Auty's testimonial meeting. It starts at 5 o'clock in Scunthorpe at the Eddie Wright Raceway. That confirmed lineup once again: Danny King of Poole and Ipswich, Chris Harris of Berwick and Peterborough, Ben Barker representing Plymouth, Charles Wright of Redcar and Bellevue, Jake Allen of Scunthorpe, Simon Lambert of Scunthorpe, Richard Lawson of Poole and Kings Lynn, Ryan Douglas of Scunthorpe and Wolverhampton, Jordan Palin of Scunthorpe and Peterborough, Kyle Howarth of Leicester and Sheffield, Josh Auty, the man himself, representing Birmingham, of course, Paul Stark, Newcastle and Ipswich, Ulrich Ostergaard of Glasgow and Peterborough, Zane Kennedy of Scunthorpe, Tero Arnio at Scunthorpe, and Carl Newman of Oxford, with track reserves, Harry and Sam McGurk. who of course represent the Bellevue Colts, and they'll be the track reserves. The format very much like a Grand Prix with 20 qualifying heats, 2 semi-finals and a final. But what about the man himself? We're going to talk more to Josh Auty in just a moment, find out about his early days and a look at his career through British Speedway so far. Of course, he's still got a long way to go. He's only 31, there's plenty ahead, and we'll also find out what his dream meeting might look like as well. All to come on Humans of Speedway. You're listening to Humans of Speedway. If you haven't already, now could be a good time to hit the like, follow, subscribe button or whatever it is on whichever app you're using to make sure you get all the new episodes straight to your device as soon as they're available. In this episode, we're talking with Josh Auty, who marks his testimonial year this year, although it's been delayed by the pandemic somewhat. But let's find out about Josh's backstory right now, because Josh has been a fixture at a number of clubs across British Speedway over the course of his career. But Josh, how did you get involved in Speedway in the first place? Because I think most people, there's like a family link in some way. It's a family introduction, and is that the same story for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. My dad were a British sand racing champion, so him and my dad swung me, basically got me a bike, and I used to go to like local football pitches or whatever and ride round. I mean, if you did that today, there'd be police on you straight away. So, I think it were a PW50, a Yamaha PW50. So rode around fields and things like that, and then that progressed to sort of doing schoolboy grass track, and from the ages of 6 to about 14, it was pretty much every weekend through the summer, riding at various different clubs, various meetings. Obviously did the schoolboy championships. I think I won 4 British titles in my time on the grass track. So yeah, they were fun. They were fun times, particularly when you're a young kid going in the caravan with your family, camping out. Just really good moments that, you remember forever, to be honest.
Dewsbury as an area, and I grew up in Dewsbury, as did you, but obviously Dewsbury has produced, or that area of West Yorkshire has produced some great speedway riders of the time. I obviously didn't go down that route, and the closest I came was probably riding my BMX around the Heckmondwike Cycle Speedway track. But for you, how did you actually take that on from just riding your bike round fields and so on to getting into Speedway a little more deeply and so on?
I started doing sort of riding around before the meeting at Hull in the early 2000s. Eric were promoter there, and obviously Eric lived really close to where my granddad lives. So my granddad kind of approached Eric and said, look, can Josh ride round before the meeting? Which Eric agreed to. I mean, my granddad and my granddad and Eric are really good mates. Eric regularly calls round to my granddad's. I think he has a lot of respect for my granddad in terms of how intelligent my granddad is, in terms of he's a fantastic engineer. As I've mentioned before, he services all my engines and things like that. He did all my engines in the schoolboy grass track scene as well. Straightens frames for myself. James Sargent regularly calls round and drops frames off to be straightened. So he does everything really within, anything from, well, he's built an engine up from scratch for me that I'm currently using at the minute. So I've never found a job that he hasn't been able to do yet for me. So he's just somebody who I have the utmost respect for.
And the Eric you mentioned there, of course, is Eric Bucock, who, a former British champion, a fellow Dewsbury lad, a Halifax Dukes legend, and also a team manager as well with Bradford Dukes and Sheffield, co-promoter at Hull Speedway, as you touched on as well. But somebody who's been there, seen it and done it all, and what a character to have in your corner.
Eric's been a huge influence on my career, especially from a young age. He sort of said to me, look, Josh, if you do things right and treat it as a business and, be serious about what you do, you can make it your career. And he, from a very early age, instilled into me, I say, the business side of sport, particularly. He started me on my journey, and as I said, I owe a hell of a lot to Eric in terms of just help, support in general. I had good times with him when he was team manager at Sheffield as well. We came so close to winning the league title there. As you mentioned, there's not anything he hasn't done or experienced within the sport. So it were, and from a personal point of view, I've gained a really good friend from it all as well. As you mentioned, the list of accolades is one throughout his racing career, and as a manager as well, he's quite simply a legend of the sport. And I was lucky enough to sort of cross paths with him at a young age, and he helped me massively throughout my career, and still does.
And you took Eric's advice. He said, take this seriously, think of it as a business, put your mind to it, be a professional, and, there's a career in this for you. And what was it like then, your early stages, making your way into Speedway, earning some money, probably not very much, but a bit of money, and moving your way up through the ranks, and of course making that leap initially with Scunthorpe and then Redcar in the what's now the Championship leagues?
I found the initial transition, particularly from sort of your Conference League to your Championship, I found that difficult to begin with. Obviously, as we mentioned, if you're a young lad coming through and you're winning races, you're taking livelihood off the more experienced guys. So I think I had a few moments where I probably got knocked off, but it were a tough eye-opening for me. Coming up against these guys, I probably, through racing in National League, I became accustomed to winning, and winning was easy. But the step up you make, you're not winning as many races, and the races become tougher. And it toughens you up, it hardens you up. I mean, it's so, I think now it's even tougher for your likes of the step up from National League to Championship is phenomenal now, because you come up against riders that are riding in Premiership as well. I think, is it something like 50-60% of riders ride in the Championship as well as the Premiership? So that gap is just huge. If you're just a young lad coming out of National League and you're coming up against Chris Harris and Danny King and Craig Cook and Scott Nichols, all these guys, they're the seasoned pros. The experience they have, phenomenal. So it's really tough. And obviously, that there is the financial aspects of, coming from school. I had to, insure my own van. Well, being a 15-year-old kid, you're used to your parents and, grandparents financially supporting you. The moment you turn 16, it's all these things you've got to think about and organise as well. It was tough, particularly my first professional season of racing with Redcar. I remember not having a mechanic, and my granddad, who was, I think, 70 at the time, had to drive me every week to Redcar to compete, because I didn't have anybody and I wasn't old enough to drive. So they were particularly challenging times, and I think I look back now and thought, yeah, they were tough, but it also I think it makes you, as if to think, all these challenges you face, and you've just got to go at them head on and conquer them almost.
And you move your way through the conveyor belt of Speedway, I suppose. You mentioned you rode for Redcar for a couple of seasons, and then after that you rode for Sheffield. You were loaned out from Coventry to Sheffield. I was surprised looking back. I thought you rode for Sheffield for like 5 or 6 years or maybe more. But it's just my impression. I used to go along to Sheffield quite a bit at that era, and I was surprised that you rode from just between 2009 and 2011. and a relatively short amount of time, really. But again, a period where Sheffield were pretty strong, but just missed out on those league titles that they probably should have won. It
does seem like I was at Sheffield longer. I were only there 3 seasons, which sounds not that long, but I had good memories there. I think the move from Redcar to Sheffield at second division level, it really, I mean, it wasn't just the track. I were living in Dewsbury, which were a 45-minute drive to Sheffield for a home meeting. I'm under the impression that if you can cut travelling time to your home event, to your home track, it is a huge benefit to you because you're not spending it travelling. You know, you're fresh. Don't get me wrong, when you've travelled like 5 hours, particularly to Edinburgh on a Friday evening, it takes it out of you. If you're continuously doing that throughout the season, it takes its toll. So, you know, you want to make everything as easy as possible for you in order for you to score a good amount of points to make a living from. So if you can make things easier, it most definitely helps. So that in terms of the move from Redcar to Sheffield helped it cut out probably 45 minutes, well, in total, an hour and a half of travelling time, which helps you. I could set off at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and be at Sheffield for 5 o'clock easy. Whereas obviously with Redcar it were an hour and a half one way, so I had to set off a bit earlier, which helps. I think the travelling time helps, and as well, Eric were manager there. I think with him knowing me as a person, he managed me a lot. I think it's being a good manager. You know, it's knowing when to give a rider a kick up arse and to put an arm around a rider, and he knew when to give me a kick up the backside and when to put an arm around me. You know, it's almost feeling loved by that manager. And, you know, by managing me right, it got me to score a lot of points for the club, which were beneficial for Sheffield.
Sheffield is a little bit different in British Speedway, isn't it? That firstly, not every rider has mastered it because there is a trick to it, but it's so fast, and that's unusual because it's inside a dog track. Many of the tracks inside dog tracks, for example, Wolverhampton or Newcastle, you know, very tight on the bends really, whereas Sheffield, it's full throttle the whole way.
Yeah, it's a terrific venue as well. I think it's a brilliant stadium, brilliant track. It's always well prepared. It's just a brilliant stage to be on there. It's had some good, you know, it's held some great meetings. I think it held the World Cup in 2002. I think it held a semi-final there, if I seem to recall. It's had some, you know, it's the Championship Riders final as well. It's mainly held at Sheffield. It's held some really great meetings, so it's just a great place and I think Sheffield in particular has always been a good speedway town, city. You know, it's always had speedway in the city. So it's as you mentioned, great track, great stadium, great facilities there. You know, they're geared up for success.
Sheffield, as I say, it is a big track, but it is also still in its own way a technical track, and you can see the riders that have had experience around there and know exactly where to put the bike versus those that haven't. Usually it's that first and second turn and down that first back straight, really. But what is the key to mastering Overton?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like a technique of allowing the bike to sort of, you're keeping your wheels in right line and not really scrubbing your speed off by turning too hard. Whereas if you went to somewhere like Wolverhampton, it's almost it's chalk and cheese is Wolverhampton to Sheffield. It's a tight circuit, so you've got to turn and force the bike to turn almost. Whereas at Sheffield, you're kind of going against wanting to turn as hard because you're trying to keep your wheels in line to generate speed. So yeah, I would say there is a certainly a technique to as I said, keeping your wheels in line and keeping that momentum.
Similarly, though, for Coventry, which is where you went next. I mean, again, sadly, it's a track that's currently, I would say no more, because there's still hope and people are doing what they can to save Coventry, as we well know, which is one of the iconic venues in British Speedway that's held British finals and intercontinental finals and all this kind of stuff. In fact, Grand Prix, the first British Grand Prix was held at Coventry, such as its importance. But again, one of those tracks that's inside a dog track, but quite a big one, quite a fast one, sort of in contrast to the likes of Wolverhampton. Coventry was a quick track.
Yeah, Coventry were a super fast track. It's and another brilliant venue as well. Stadium were mega. Yeah, it's really sad to see pictures of the state it's in right now. It's I try and avoid looking at them. Really, it's just sad. It's just a sad state of affairs. As you mentioned, the whole first British Grand Prix to be held there. I remember the great nights when Coventry won the playoffs and everything. Phenomenal moments within Speedway, and it's just, I really hope it comes back, because it's be a huge loss to British Speedway massively.
We're probably getting to the point where there's a whole generation of younger fans now who never experienced Coventry, never even knew it as a team, unfortunately. But it was an iconic name, is an iconic name in British Speedway, that if it were to come back would be just huge. And we hope that one day is the case. I'd
certainly put it up there with probably the most legendary. I'd say Bellevue is, if you go anywhere, I mean, I've rode in Australia and places like that, if you show that in Bellevue Aces colours, they know who they are above anybody else. I think I would certainly think that Bellevue were probably the most legendary, but Coventry are most certainly up there with them. And yeah, it was just a good time. I think the owners come in and the finances help to be successful, and the owner at Coventry certainly flexed his financial power in terms of investing within the club. Everything in terms of just the paying the track staff, obviously helping the riders to get sponsors, to be able to buy the best equipment. Everything has to be geared up, and finances play a massive part in that if you want to be successful. So, as I said, the owners definitely financed the financial period, the successful period that Coventry had. There were, it were always Coventry or Poole, particularly in the from sort of 2005 to sort of 2010, I'd say, in that period, it were between Poole and Coventry for who won the top division title. Fingers crossed that the council help. I think the council play a massive part, particularly in Coventry area for Speedway, and from what the messages and vibe that I'm getting told is that the council want the Speedway to come back. That they don't want to sell the venue for housing. So yeah, just fingers crossed that I think the public as well can help get Coventry Speedway back up and running. It'd be a fantastic acquisition, particularly for the top division, because they've always been a top division club. So yeah, fingers crossed that something turns out there.
Scunthorpe, of course, is the club that you've ridden for the most in any of the leagues, and obviously that's the reason you're having your testimonial there. But you've had 9 solid years there, and we talked about it coming to a bit of a dramatic halt in 2021. But up until that point, though, you've enjoyed some terrific times with Scunthorpe, and if you're riding for any club for that amount of time, you must enjoy your time there.
Yeah, absolutely. The supporters have been phenomenal there. I very much relate to them. It's a very working class town. There's an old guy there that comes with a disabled lad who always speaks to me before every meeting. Just a phenomenal guy. Just Just nice personal moments like that. You get I know a lot of people there, so it was sad to see it end, but everything comes to an end eventually. I would have liked to have won more trophies within that period as well. I think from the first season I moved there, in 2012, we won the league title and then never really came close to winning it again, really. There were some moments within the seasons where issues happened. I think there was one year where Ryan Douglas didn't get his visa in time or whatever, so he missed a period at start of season, which if you've lost sort of 3 matches within start season, you've lost them. You've almost lost 9 points. That could be difference between getting into them playoffs and winning league championship and not. I think we lost Stevie Worrell one year in 2018 as number 1. Just we never seemed to really have any luck on a side after winning it in 2012. So, but luck plays a part. I don't care what anybody says in sport. It almost tips the balance in the team that wins. So yeah, I enjoyed, I'd say, about 90% of my time there. You don't enjoy the meetings that you lose, but I won a fair few in my time, which were good. So yeah, I've got fond memories that I'll that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life.
Well, this is it, and you'll always be held in high regard at Scunthorpe, and obviously that's why people are going to be turning out for you at your testimonial at the start of the season. One other thing just to mention, you touched on that you rode in Australia, and it was a very unusual situation in many respects, in that you took part in the Queensland State Championship and also the Jack Young Solo Cup, and you did pretty well, has to say. Yeah,
the first year I went out there were I really got Marcus and Bev Williams were just unbelievable. That they treat us like their own sons. We were treated like kings over there. Unbelievable memories. There were first year we went out. I think there were me, Brendan Johnson, Adam Raffle, Kyle Newman, Gino Manzares. And then they obviously wanted to expand it to like a 7-man team. The second year, I think both the Worrells came out, Kyle Howarth came out. And obviously you got 7 lads living under one roof. You can imagine the mayhem that we caused. So, yeah, just phenomenal times and memories that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life again. The first year I went out in 2009, won quite a lot of races, which were good. I think the big one were winning the Queensland title to beat Darcy Ward at Brisbane were huge. It were only when Marcus Williams mentioned to me, I forgot that meeting I had. I got an eye infection, a really bad eye infection from my contact lenses. So we're having to. I can't remember this because all I remember were winning. But the issues I had in that meeting, I were lucky to even compete in it. To be fair, so to win and have all them ongoing issues within the meeting, I remember having to take my contact lenses and clean them out throughout the meeting, which is just. It's not ideal in a super dusty environment, and you're taking a contact lens in and out and everything. The meeting itself didn't really go that well for me. I think I scraped through into the semi-final and then won the semi-final and then won the final. I was by no means most consistent rider at night, but I ended up coming away with a trophy, which were great. So yeah, there were great moments, great memories.
Josh Reynolds, the Queensland champion. Get up off your seat, make some noise. Josh, how are you?
Always great to win some kind of title and on the doorstep of the Aussies, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's we celebrated that night. It was good. Very good.
Sounds great. What happens in Australia stays in Australia. But coming next, we're going to find out what Josh Auty's dream Speedway meeting would look like. His dream track, dream stadium, all-time 1 to 7, and much, much more. On the way next, on Humans of Speedway. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan. My guest this time is Josh Auty, who has spent time with a number of British Speedway clubs over the course of his career, most notably Scunthorpe, and that's where he's going to be having his testimonial meeting, which opens the 2022 Speedway season on the 19th of March, but also spent time with the Redcar Bears, Sheffield Tigers, the Coventry Bees, the Birmingham Brummies, the Leicester Lions, and a spell with Kings Lynn as well. So quite a few clubs covered, and right now he's going to describe and design his dream Speedway meeting, which I know that in many ways he has done in creating his testimonial, but right now we're going to find out if there were no rules, no limitations, what would make his dream meeting. So the first question for you, Josh, is if you were going to choose the perfect track, which track would you choose to host your dream Speedway meeting on?
I would have to say Scunthorpe. I do think it produces the best racing, but I'm going to say a close second would be a track in Australia called Gilman. And I had some... I think that might have been where I won the Jack Young Cup, actually.
That's the Jack Young Cup, yeah.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed racing that track. And I'd love to see a Grand Prix there, actually. I think that would produce some unbelievable racing at Grand Prix level. It's not a particularly big track. I think it were around about the 285 metre mark, but I had some great races there, and I thought, wow, if this could host a Grand Prix, it'd be amazing. So Gilman would be a close second, but I'm going to go with Scunthorpe because I've seen some, particularly in the time that I had off in 2022, I thought I saw some great races there. And it'll continue to produce great racing there because it's wide enough, and it's not particularly a super big track where riders can sort of, once they get the wheels in line and generate that speed from sort of the start. I think in terms of entertainment value, Scunthorpe produces the best racing.
Okay, Scunny then for the track. If you're going to put the Scunthorpe track in a bigger stadium, though, for the atmosphere and stuff, where would you put it?
It's got to be Millennium Stadium.
Yeah, always good.
Unbelievable. I would track reserve at the Grand Prix there twice, and just thought, wow, what a stadium. Phenomenal. And weirdly, I went there when I was, I think I was 11. My dad took me to watch Man United versus Liverpool in the Community Shield, which we lost. I think Liverpool scored in first 10 minutes. I think they got a penalty in first 10 minutes, and we were at that end where they scored it. Oh, so it was just weird that I went to watch a football game there, and then sort of 10 years later, I was riding a speedway bike there.
It's quite a while ago now, isn't it? But you were a track reserve at one of the Grand Prix, and you were called into action. You got your moment.
Yeah, I got to ride. I did a race in 2013.
Oh, that's right. You pick up a point.
Yeah, I scored a point. I beat Antonio Limbach, so I got a GP point, which were cool.
Coming up in Heat 18, Josh Auty replaces the injured Ty Woffenden. Auty, who rides for the Birmingham Brummies in the Elite League, for Scunthorpe in the Premier League, and Josh is a young man widely regarded with a bright future in the sport.
The introductions are one thing, but then to actually go out, in a meaningful, a proper race and all that in the Grand Prix, it must be pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking, but once that tapes have gone up and you're in that first corner, it's the whole focus is on scoring some points and winning and choosing the right lines. If a rider's in front of you, you're kind of gauging what the rider in front of you is doing. So if he's gone wide, I kind of think, oh, let's try and get underneath him. If I gain any momentum on him, stay there. And then if I don't, move to a different part of the track. Particularly in my head, that's what I'm always thinking. Where to ride to sort of go fast.
Holder off the inside, Auty off gate number 2, Lindback off 3, and Harris off the outside. Holder's best score this season, 14 in Gothenburg. Can he beat that tonight? He's made a good start there, and now has that lead. Josh Auty is in second place, and then I'll tell you what.
Fantastic experience, though, and days like that don't come round very often. Let's look at your dream team now, your all-time 1 to 7. I imagine there'll be a few Grand Prix stars that maybe make this, but talk us through your dream team then from 1 to 7. Who would make it?
I think Tony Rickardson's got to be up there. 6 times world champ. I mean, that's ridiculous, really. Mark Laram's in there because of obviously just the amount of respect that I have for him. Jason Lyons is in there because I had a lot of respect for him competing against him. Bomber. Danny King, close friend as well. I'd like to throw him in there. Rode throughout my grass track career against. Well, I didn't race against him, but it was always at events. So that's how I knew Danny from such a young age. I'm going to stick Ricky in there because he's another close friend of mine, Ricky Ashworth. Obviously, suffered career-ending injuries. Really sad to see. And then probably another one, I'm going to stick Gary Stead in there, another friend of mine that's, again, suffered career-ending injuries as well. But they have, both them guys have quite a big influence on me. I mean, Gary lives down the road from me, so I often swing by and have sort of a brew with him and a bit of a catch up. And he's always one that's always puts an arm around me and is a friend more than anything, to be honest.
No, that's great, and a great lineup. I'm sure that if they're in their heydays and stuff, that will be quite some clash if they were all able to ride together. So, who would be the referee? Have you got a particular referee that you're a fan?
Yeah, Tony Steele.
Tony Steele. Another vote for Tony Steele. He is the most. I think he's certainly the most respected among the people that I've interviewed in the past. He's the name that comes up often.
Absolutely, the riders respect him more than anything, which is good. He's just probably the best referee. It's as simple as that. Tony Steele.
If you were going to change a rule of Speedway, what would you change?
If somebody's anticipated a start, just let it go. That rider's chanced it, and they've played the game and got away with it instead of bringing it back. Yeah, I don't think us riders like getting brought back to tapes again and again after somebody's jumped it or whatever. Just let it go. I mean, it'd be really interesting to do a meeting where riders are actually allowed to touch the tapes like how it used to be back in the day. I think that'd be really. I'd be quite interested in doing that, to be honest, because it adds a different element, particularly to the start as well. You've got a lot more things to think about almost. That, your tapes can be touched and knocked. So, yeah, it'd be an interesting one, that.
Because you could be knocking the tapes, but I suppose it could penalise yourself in a way, because you could be pulling your bike back at the point the tapes go up, in which case...
Absolutely, yeah. It adds a totally different element to it all.
Yeah. Double or quits. And if there was a team that was going to race against your All-Stars, like an actual team that has existed in the past, which team would you love to see lining up?
Possibly the Somerset team that Scunthorpe beaten in 2012. I'd like to see that again, almost a rematch with same riders. That would be probably one. The Poole era were phenomenal. When Poole had Rickards, Lee Adams, Antonio Lindback, I mean, that could smash anybody, really, the team that they had. So, yeah, probably the Somerset of 2012, or particularly Poole's of whatever year they had. I think they had Tony Rickards, Lee Adams, Bjarne Pedersen, Antonio Lindback all in the same lineup. I mean, you've got 4 Grand Prix riders in there in the lineup there.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad.
Ridiculous, really, to be fair.
It's almost Ipswich 98, but not quite. But it's that kind of ilk, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Sounds like a tremendous meeting, and thanks very much for joining us, Josh, and telling us a bit about yourself. And, of course, all the best with your testimonial meeting. The 19th of March is the opening date of the British Speedway season, and Josh Auty's testimonial is the very first fixture at the Eddie Wright Raceway in Scunthorpe. Get yourself down there. It's a 5 o'clock start, and a great lineup of riders, and a great evening of entertainment is going to be in store. And all the very best of luck with it, Josh, and all the best for the season ahead as well. And here's to a good one for you to make up for what happened last year.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks for having us on the show, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Our pleasure. My thanks once again to Josh Auty for joining us on this episode of Humans of Speedway. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And don't forget Josh's big events. Once again, the date you need, 19th of March. It's a 5 o'clock start at the Eddie Wright Raceway in Scunthorpe. One of our previous episodes from just the other week was with Lewis Kerr, and his testimonial is the day after that, Sunday, March 20th. Find out about Louis Kerr in that previous episode. And it won't be long to wait for the Ben Fund Bonanza. And the previous episode to this was with Paul Ackroyd, who tells us all about his career as a top referee. 28 years refereeing Speedway. He's got some good stories and a good insight into the life of a referee, but he's also the chairman of the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund, which is the world's only charity, and we've got it right here in this country, that helps injured Speedway riders. So find out more about that, and also about the Ben Fund Bonanza meeting, which will be on Sunday, March 27th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Peterborough. Thanks once again for joining us. We'll be back with you with another episode very soon. In the meantime, take care, and we'll speak to you soon on the next Humans of Speedway.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.